Dear friends, hello and welcome today in Ukraine with a beautiful machine that you see next to me. This is the biggest of the first-person view drones. We usually talk about first-person view as if they were always kamikaze drones, but this one is called the Queen Hornet, the Queen of the Hornets. I assure you, this machine has numerous possible functions due to its unmatched payload capacity compared to what we've seen before. The first point for the Queen Hornet is the possible missions. The machine has a payload capacity of 922 pounds for distances up to 53.72 miles, which drops to 13.227774 pounds for longer distances, such as 9.32 miles. The modularity of this system is the key point of interest once again. For example, this small camera, it's a daytime camera in this version, but very simply it's enough to change this optic and it becomes a night drone, so we can obviously use it in all situations. What you see here are the different communication systems. This antenna that is here is the one that will be used for the video return, and the one that is here, the quadruple antenna that allows to go 4 times stronger and therefore to carry further with a better quality. Here it's for the return of communication. Obviously if we lose the image it's annoying, but we don't lose the drone. On the other hand, if we lose the communication, there we risk losing it. These are modules that can be changed. If we see that in front of us, we have a jammer that is in function of the lobes, how they are placed. They will be able to change at 90 degrees to make it more efficient and to have a range that will be more important. And there too it's modular, they can switch to digital. While here we are rather on analog. The interest of analog is that the loss of signal is very gradual. It makes snow, it makes fog, we still see 20, 30, 40%. We can always work. Whereas with digital, when we are below 50%, we switch to 1 or 0. In other words, once we stop receiving data, the drone is completely lost to us. Drones with the required intelligence would be significantly more expensive, making it an impractical solution. 1,200, 1,300 euros. These costs are absolutely ridiculous compared to the machine's use. So I was telling you about the missions of this drone. In reality, of course, there are many. First, it's going to be a bomber drone. When you have such a carrying capacity, you can go relatively far. Drop bombs, grenades, a bit like we saw with the Mavics. The Mavic weighs a few hundred grams, while this weighs 9 to 10 kilograms, which is much more significant. And the next version that is coming will double. It's 18 kilograms with a price that will be barely higher when we talk about dropping, of course. We can lay mines, so when we know that there are Russian vehicles passing by. Always in the same place we can drop anti-tank mines, we can also drop small hooks that will puncture the tires. If they pass with vehicles that will not be tracked vehicles, for example, but we will also be able to support frontline operations by providing, for example, equipment. He can be able to send ammunition and magazines that will already be pre-filled, so they don't have to send vehicles back and forth. Quads, as was the case in the past, and there it's very quick to also send medical equipment for if ever there is a wounded, we send the necessary to be able to do sutures, bandages. The third element is that we can add things to it that will be a little out of the ordinary. For example, it's on this drone that you have the first uses of a rifle, a machine gun, a K-74, which was directly integrated. It was tested in the southern Donbass region of Donetsk with relatively low efficiency due to poor accuracy according to their feedback. However, when they attacked and they coordinated the use of the Wild Hornet with this cannon, it made the Russians duck down. In other words, they were being strafed from above, so they ducked their heads in the trench. This made the assault easier, as the Russians didn't stick their heads out to attack the approaching men. And we also have these images with a drone carrying a sort of shotgun, which allows to chase Russian FPVs, which manage to destroy them, catch up with them, and shoot at them. The targeting system in the center aligns with the Russian drone, allowing them to shoot, a sight becoming increasingly common on the front lines. On the types of missions that we also see on this drone, it will be able to do retransmission, that is to say, it will be at altitude, and it will be able to communicate to serve as a relay to increase the range, the effectiveness of the communication of the other drones that will be used in the area. It itself can also carry grenade launchers, even be able to fire 84, so we are on the classic rocket launchers that go straight. We also saw it used only once, these famous flamethrower drones, what we call dragons, which are very, very heavy. When lined up on a trench, obviously none survive. It's thermite, they have a large volume, large quantities. but they consider a Euro 1,300 drone of this quality too heavy and expensive to be worth taking. So they rather take cheaper, smaller drones. The 300-350 Euro FPVs are enough to drop thermite on a trench that has been well identified. These drones are typically designed to be disposable. It's not worth risking a U-1200 drone that can sometimes catch fire with thermite. So they even have the ability to adapt to reduce the cost of using this type of drone. The latest Payload, which is perhaps the most advanced and recent, is the ability to carry another drone under the Queen Hornet. For example, the Sting, which was developed by the same company and is an anti-aircraft drone, meaning it itself will be able to hit a target, particularly to intercept shade kamikaze drones or other aerial vectors, or simply small first-person view kamikaze drones, thereby increasing their range. In terms of design, it should be known that the company Hornet was initially young engineers who chose to work evenings and weekends to develop these drones. With crowdfunding, the purchase, once again, is also participatory, the state. They buy a lot, there are hundreds that are operational on the front, they have very good feedback and they try to do more. And when you look at industrialization, you see we are on 3D printing there. We do not see carbon fiber because carbon fiber costs a little more, and they are now at 65% of parts that are produced locally in Ukraine. And so they try to be more and more independent. Even in batteries now, Ukraine is becoming a champion of batteries by reusing batteries they have had in the past, including electronic cigarette batteries. There are many things they do here. I will not say circular economy, but in any case they are less and less calling on what comes from outside. The batteries are local, the electronic systems are local. The electronic cards are also produced locally in Ukraine. And that's really also able to respond very, very quickly to demand and to changes, because they consider that the software evolves with a new version between 2 and 3 weeks. Every 2 to 3 weeks there is a new evolution of the system, because the designers are not engineers who stay in the back. It's also the engineers who will use and exploit it on the front line. This speeds up the return on experience, which is clearly excellent. They also place a lot of emphasis on industrialization and on the ability to produce parts in different places in real time according to their needs. That is to say, there will be a missing part next to Donetsk. With 3D printer factories scattered across the territory, they will be able to produce it directly.
It's a resilience that is unimaginable compared to industries as they have been imagined up to now.
That is to say, you cannot bomb the 20,000 centers in which they are capable of producing parts. There are tens of thousands of people like that who have installed 1 or 2 3D printers in their basement. They will pay for the electricity out of their own pocket, they will organize themselves, they will receive orders, they will receive coordination like that, and requests that come directly from the army or directly from the units they will know, and this also allows to produce directly 20 kilometers from the front. The destroyed propeller will be reproduced directly, and they will have the new one the next day. There is no need to wait 2 months to get the right spare part, and there is a flexibility, a very horizontal organization down to the bottom of the chain of command, which means that the user himself, it's him who will decide what he lacks, and they will prepare the missions about 24 hours in advance, knowing what they have to do. And so they will adapt their drones according to the need of the next day. In any case, this flexibility, this Ukrainian engineering that works miracles today, is what allows them to hold. If they were not as innovative, as well organized and as flexible in their use, I think they would have collapsed a long time ago. Once again, this was a video that was made thanks to the teams of the National Guard. The National Guard, the first unit of the Presidential Guard. So it's a unit that is quite precious, which is obviously deployed all over the territory, but which is on the front line, especially at the moment in the Kupiansk region, after having been in the area where we saw them last time in the Donetsk region, because that's where they are sent, where it's hot, where it's a little bit dangerous. They are relying on your support. The previous video about the T-64 BV tank showcased electronic warfare equipment that jammed communications and helped avoid improvised explosive device attacks, ultimately saving lives. And thanks to your donations, I will give you the link so that you can support them. There was also the possibility to buy equipment, thermal blankets, which means they can progress without being detected by Russian drones. And that's really something that is obviously fundamental. You save lives when you support them, be convinced of that. I remind you that while the video is sponsored, the sponsor's money goes back to humanitarian actions in Ukraine, such as demining, electricity, and medical support, not to military units.
And that's thanks to your numbers.
The more of you watching the videos, the more we are Ukrainians.
Thanks again for the numbers. See you soon.